Welcome back to my podcast, dear listeners. We are on episode 89. Last time I told you about trying to find love in Hillside. Today I'll tell you about what happened at university. I was in the first year of my master's program and exams were nearing. In the past, I had found that the best way to utilize the month-long break before final exam was to go to the university library in the morning and study there till closing time. Mom wondered why I couldn't study at home, but in my experience, being at the library helped me to stay focused. Plus, I preferred to be by myself when I did this because the presence of any friend would hinder concentration and would mean spending extra time talking, interacting, and that kind of stuff. Also, none of my friends were actually interested in studying this way, which suited me fine. And so it became a routine that I went to the university library as soon as it opened, often waiting outside for the librarian to unlock it, and then staying there till evening. There were a few other students who seemed to be regulars, and I noticed them only as a peripheral perception, never really paying them any attention. I had a particular table that I was partial to, considering its position. Its proximity to the window and fan in comparison to all other tables made it the best choice. This table was pretty much in the middle of the rows of tables. And I always sat at the middle chair, so the fourth chair from either direction. These tables were long, and each table seated about 7 students on each side, so you could have 14 students sitting at a table at full occupancy. 2 tables behind me, every day, sat a group of African origin students. Since I never spoke to them, nor they to me, I had no idea which country they were actually from. 7 of these boys marched into the library every morning religiously and sat there till closing time. Since these students faced the same direction as me, they were basically behind me, and I never really looked at them as such. About 3 or 4 weeks into this routine, a guy whom I had never seen before at the university or at the library came and sat in the chair across from me, so facing me. I looked up briefly and continued studying. Either the boy was clumsy or the table was wonky, but the boy's pencil rolled off the table. I looked in amusement as he picked it up, and sure enough, the point was missing. I noted, with further amusement, that he had neither a sharpener nor another pencil. Ruby and I were in the habit of being very organized and prided ourselves on our pencil pouch organization. We had a system whereby we ensured we always had our highlighters, pens, pencils, and other stationery readily available. The boy looked at me sheepishly, and I smiled. He actually looked very cute. Now looking helplessly around, he asked me, "Can I lend your sharpener?" He had clearly noticed my neatly laid out stationery at the table. I burst out laughing and corrected him. "You mean you want to borrow my sharpener?" I asked, still laughing. He laughed and introduced himself. I introduced myself, and we laughed some more while breaking the ice. He was not at all embarrassed about his mistake. I know that in his position, I'd have been severely embarrassed, maybe even changing tables for the shame of saying the wrong word. As this cute guy and I laughed and spoke some more, I noticed from the corner of my eye that the entire row of African students stood up simultaneously and left the library in a single file quietly. Wait, what had just happened? One part of my brain was figuring out that one of these boys probably had a crush on me, and now, seeing me speak to another boy, they felt like the sitting in the library had been a futile exercise. I wondered why they had sat in the library for 3 weeks, every day for 8 hours, and never said a word to me. If none of them ever approached me or spoke to me, how would I even know that one of them liked me? The first inkling that I had of their interest was when they filed out of the library as soon as I spoke to a guy. If any one of them had spoken to me, who knows? I don't even know for how long this guy had liked me. It is very possible that he had seen me around campus for the entire academic year. And I didn't even know which of these 7 guys was the one that liked me. So, guys, sitting and looking at a girl from afar is not the best action plan if you want to attract her. I'd say speaking to her at some point is a good idea. The other part of my brain, however, was engaged with my conversation with the cute guy. His name was Gagan, and he had come to the university library to prepare for his MBA entrance exams. From the moment Gagan and I met, we became inseparable. That was, of course, as long as we were at the university campus. I found out that Gagan's dad worked at a public sector government owned firm. He had been transferred to Mumbai recently. I think they had lived in Patna or Allahabad before this, not sure. One day the library was not open. I'm not sure what was the reason, and we walked up to one of the other buildings to study our respective books. I took this opportunity to walk on the grass as I studied. I found that walking while studying helped me retain better. So Gagan sat at the steps of the building entrance with his book, and I walked on the grass with mine. Whether or not employees are efficient at anything else, they are super quick for moral policing. Within minutes, a peon made his way to us and told us we couldn't be there. I protested, saying that the library was closed and that we were quietly studying, not bothering anybody. The peon would have none of it and insisted on showing us away from there. He wouldn't have a boy and a girl together on his turf. I was super annoyed. This was so biased and embarrassing for us. Gagan and I had exchanged phone numbers and kept in touch, and we continued meeting. One day, Gagan invited me to a day picnic at a beach resort. Of course, being from middle class families, we knew about the extra supervision on girls, maybe even boys, and I had anyway informed Gagan of how super strict my mom was. So there was only a certain duration of time that I could be away from home. We got into the general compartment of a train. Usually I'd get into the ladies' compartment, but since we were together, we got into the general compartment, which primarily has men getting into it. The inevitable happened, and a lot of men started getting into the train. Gagan stood in front of me to shield me from the influx of people. We had never been this close ever before, and I felt a little shy and looked down. Gagan apologized for standing so close, and I thought it was adorable because he was actually sincere. I knew he couldn't help it. He was not trying to take advantage or anything. He was not trying to be sly. We took the ferry to the island and reached the resort. Gagan said he'd booked a room so we could change into our beachwear. I felt so self-conscious when Gagan was interacting with the owner of the resort that I just cast my eyes down and withdrew into the shadows. I was so worried about him judging me. We went into the room and I went to the bathroom and changed into my t-shirt and cycling shorts. I wasn't going to wear a swimsuit at the beach here. That would be too bold for an Indian beach. I stepped out of the bathroom and Gagan was mesmerized by how gorgeous I looked. He'd never seen me so scantily dressed before. He gushed over my legs. That was all he could see because the t-shirt was quite loose. I, on my part, was surprised to see that he was more muscular than I expected. Gagan had the classic chocolate hero look. In the 90s in India, there was a trend in movies for the male lead to have a cute, almost puppy-like, cuddly and adorable appearance. Think Amir Khan and Shah Rukh Khan in the early part of their careers. This look was called the chocolate hero look, and Gagan fit the look to a T, so I expected him to be soft and fleshy. But now that he was wearing shorts, I could clearly see that he worked out and had defined muscles. I was impressed and complimented him. Gagan then took me in his arms and hugged me. I did feel very shy. He asked if I would be okay with some cuddling on the bed before we went to the beach, and I was comfortable with that, so I agreed. However, It would be decades before I would become aware of the concept of boundaries or clearly conveying them. It didn't matter that I was doing my master's in psychology. My upbringing and my inner program was such that I did not have any idea how to be assertive. As a rule, I oscillated between being submissive and then, when pushed to the brink, becoming aggressive like a cornered animal. There was no in between. But by the time I was a teenager, I was mostly on the placid side, trying my best to be understanding and accommodating. Typically, I chose to simply block people out of my life if I felt they were not right for me. The blocking people out worked in social situations, but couldn't be applied in family or work situations. We had never learned healthy conflict resolution either. In my quest for self actualization, I had read up every spiritual book I could lay my hands on, and what I had interpreted was to just let people do whatever, let them walk all over you, and to just accept it. And that is what I had started doing, to just allow everyone's bad behavior and to never protest. This, as I can see now, is very unhealthy advice, especially to someone who's already submissive and has low self worth. This advice was probably targeted at people who were full of themselves and very puffed up with ego. That might be suitable for them. So I had entered adulthood, now that I was 21, with these very distorted values and dysfunctional beliefs. But in my eyes, I was evolving as a person and becoming mature. In addition, Ruby, having grown up with her own distorted coping mechanisms, encouraged me to always give the benefit of doubt to the other person and to put myself in their shoes, explaining that they more often than not had very good reasons for doing what they did. About our parents, for instance, she always said, they are our parents, they love us. So if they do something or say something, it is for our own good. Ruby's coping mechanism was to make excuses for the other person and to never blame them. That is what she did. She justified the abusers, especially if they were our parents. That is how she was able to live with it and make sense of it. This constant advice and reaffirmation of it from Ruby prevented me from seeing things more objectively and from seeing other human beings for what they were. Just other flawed humans who were simply coping the only way they knew how. Or some were actually so far gone that they were just manipulative and selfish. This put a lot of pressure on me to simply let people get away with their unacceptable behavior and to never confront them. Not that I had the tools anyway to do this in a neutral and calm manner. I was a gentle, timid kid who wanted her parents to have a better opinion of her than just the slow, stupid, pathetic kid that they thought she was. I was a kid who had never gotten validation or approval from anyone, teachers or parents. And by the time my anemia was addressed and my efforts showed results, I already had deep seated issues. My dysfunctional family dynamic and Ruby's well intended but maladaptive coping advice did not help either. This is exactly the recipe for becoming a victim of fraudsters and narcissists. Such easy prey. So basically, I entered adulthood with no tools or coping mechanisms, no way of protecting myself, and I was completely vulnerable to just about anyone. But even in the case of people who were not manipulative but just persuasive, I did not know that I could draw a line and stick to my boundary without either cutting out the person from my life or an aggressive episode. The bottom line is that I just accepted or allowed things that I was not comfortable with after feeble efforts to assert myself. So here I was, cuddling with this super cute dude. I could not believe that someone who looked so good would be attracted to me. With our faces so close, the thought of my big nose loomed large, and I was self conscious about it. Gagan caressed me very gently, his touch so light that it barely made contact with my skin. This was so soothing. I had never been touched like this, and I felt so relaxed. Gagan kept stroking my arm in this manner for quite a while. At no point in my time with Gagan did I ever feel hurried about physical intimacy, nor did I ever feel, even for a second, that he did not want to do what he was doing or would rather be somewhere else. There was genuine mutual enjoyment of the moment with him, and it was a very immersive experience. He enjoyed every bit what he was doing as much as I enjoyed him doing it. So we were laying in bed, which I noticed smelled distinctly musty. That observation was also happening alongside the novelty of my experience with this guy. And then Gagan asked if I would be comfortable taking off my t shirt. I was reluctant but agreed. I did like this guy after all. All of the love at first sight feelings had been going strong so far, and I was very attracted to him. In my mind, we were certainly going the distance, and I could see a future with him. I remember being happy that I had chosen to wear my pretty lacy bra on that day, the special one that Nancy Auntie had given, the one from the US. I don't know if I had subconsciously expected to have the bra seen, but either way, here we were. Gagan was bold enough to ask to see beneath the bra, and I was surprised. He was an untouched virgin. How was he moving so fast? He later admitted that he had thought that he would just kiss me in the room and then we would step out and spend the day at the beach and then maybe come back to clean up the sand and salty water. As it turns out, we did not leave the room at all. The bra did come off, and that was as far as we went. I was actually not comfortable doing that, but felt pressured to. Either way, I had never been treated so gently by a guy. I had never known touch that was so unhurried towards a destination. Or at least it hadn't been in conjunction with a guy actually making me feel good. And in the true sense of the word, Gagan was my boyfriend and we were in a relationship. Next time I'll tell you more about Gagan. Till then, stay happy, stay healthy. Bye for now.